Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Right to Know podcast. I am so excited that you are here with us today. I'm going to get all into the vision for this podcast, but our setup in this episode might be a little bombastic today as this is the first time ever. So we're just going to kind of introduce you to the vision of what this podcast is for. And when I say we, I also mean my co-host, Mary. So Mary helps run Right to Know with me. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself, but the way the structure this podcast is going to be is that we're going to start with a little like right to know moments that you have a right to know about the other person, the co-host, or even the doctor that we might have on the podcast with us that day. And so the goal with this podcast is to be able to just sit with you and hopefully help you answer any healthcare questions you have, but not to be here and give you, oh, this is medical advice. We want to have that caveat, but simply that this is big sisters that are helping you ask the right questions to your doctors and learn how your body is speaking to you. We have this beautiful thing that we call body literacy. We believe that the first thing that people do to a society in order to conquer it is to make them illiterate, right? And so we get rid of books, but we have done that to women. We've made them illiterate about their bodies. And so we're here today for us to all track things together, like sleep in regards to our cycle, or food in regards to our cycle. The list goes on. But we wanted to help you just kind of see how your body's speaking to you. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mary and we're going to talk about what you have a right to know. So we'll start with Mary. Welcome, Mary, to the podcast. So excited that you're doing this with me. And if I'm looking up, guys, because my camera's down here, but Mary's up here. So anyway, Mary, I guess and tell us why you're excited to do this podcast, and then tell us what they have a right to know about me.
Yes, thank you for having me on the podcast. Like Maya said, my name is Mary. I just graduated from UT and I wanted to be part of the podcast because I think it is crucial that women have a right to know these things about their body that they think is normal, but normal does not really mean that it's healthy. And so we're going to debunk some of those myths later. But I think you have a right to know that Maya had the most fantastic fall yesterday at pickleball. Maya, I don't know if you want to explain yourself.
Right. Okay, so I'm a massive pickleball fanatic. My entire Instagram feed may or may not be pickleball reels. But I love pickleball. I've been playing it since February of this year with some of my friends. And yesterday I was like, doing so great in my opinion. We just beat the other team like 11-5 and we're doing a rematch. And I was like all in. And so there was this ball that was not going where I thought it was gonna go. So I go to hit the ball, but there was mud on the court because we were playing outside. And I completely like slipped on the mud and fell completely on the right side of my body. And I like couldn't even like, there was nothing I could do about it. And so literally like my paddle went flying because I had no grip on my paddle. There's only like a slight scratch on my wrist, but I have a big bruise on the side of my leg. But yeah, that I guess is what you guys have a right to know about me this week. So that was fun, but I still love pickleball. I did leave almost immediately after that fall because it really hurt. And it was freezing cold outside. And so, when it's colder, everything hurts more. So I was like, bye guys, I'll see you at my house, and left and, cried myself home. But anyway, okay, right to know moment about Mary. So I teach a nutrition class on Monday mornings, and Mary comes to said nutrition class. And we're just like, I'm just giving, these are to high schoolers, and I'm just giving like my like digestion like overview. If y'all don't know, I'm a functional nutrition counselor, and I'm like giving this nutrition overview of digestion. And I'm like, if this happens, like, these are the signs of your pancreas not working well. And I look over and Mary's going, right. Just like, just trying to teach my students. And I just start laughing so hard because Mary's just like self-diagnosing herself as I'm just like going through the parts of digestion. And I think that's a good like segue into like one caveat we have for you guys is everything we talk about, we don't want you to like just self-diagnose yourself because you're like, oh, they said this and this is a sign of this. It doesn't mean that you have it. The whole point of this podcast is to bring like, I guess, bite-sized information to young girls who have a right to know this information about their bodies. Because like if your phone glitched, and let's be real, if your phone glitched every month you'd fix it, right? But when our bodies do, we like with fatigues, with period cramps, sleepless nights, we just all call it normal. And we want to bring back that culture if that's not normal. Period cramps aren't normal. Feeling tired when you wake up is not normal. Sleepless nights are not normal. And so we really want to emphasize that for each of you guys here today.
Yeah, like I said, normal does not mean healthy, it just means common.
Take that to heart. Normal doesn't mean healthy. It just means common. So, this is Right to Know, where we decode the signals your body's been screaming for years. And then we have our little notes here, and we have a little jingle, but we haven't had anybody compose the jingle yet. So, Mary, you want to take first line, and I'll take
Yeah.
second.
Okay. Here's what I'm going for, guys. Problem isn't your hormones.
That nobody ever taught you how they were.
Oh, right. Okay. Got it. Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, so we're not musicians. Well, Mary kind of is, but I am not. Just kind of going into like our vision behind Right to Know. Other episodes will look a little more different, a little more structured because we'll have medical professionals on with us. But I built Right to Know because I was just so tired of watching women just Google symptoms and diagnose themselves with brain cancer in the middle of the night because they were tired and they have a headache and just like sitting there self-diagnosing themselves when you just need to your body's just saying, hey, I'm here, like listen to me. And so one of my biggest hearts behind this is creating something where you can go, so we've created an AI where you can go to the AI and say like, hey, like I have a headache, what's going on? And the AI can give you, it has pattern recognition where it says, we notice on day 20 of your cycle you just stop drinking water, or during your luteal phase, you get kind of depressed. You stop drinking water, you isolate, you spend 20 hours on your phone, and maybe that could be why you have a headache, right? And so I was just like, and so I wanted to create a world in which it was normal to not just depend on a source that doesn't know anything about you. So we want to help you become the expert in you. So yeah, yeah.
The point is like, let's have medicine that truly follows the women's biological cycle and is more comprehensive than just a one size fits.
100%. So every week we're going to break down one part of the body, how it works, what it's saying, and how to listen to it. No guesswork, no filters, just truth. And something I just really want to emphasize here is what we're trying to bring us all into is women doing this together. So every month we're all going to track something together. So in relation to our cycle, because it's easy to just track period and ovulation and be like, oh, okay, it's fine, whatever. It might be a pattern, but it's like, let's see that pattern in regards to how you're sleeping that month. And let's see that pattern in regards to what your moods are next month and what your bowel movements are. That's a huge one. And what your temperatures are and just different things like that. So this month we're actually going to do sleep. So we're going to talk a little bit about sleep in this episode. So wow, you can just tell that cycle is just a word I use all the time. So yeah, so that's just kind of our vision here. So, one thing we believe is like you can't run the world if you can't read your own body, and that's kind of an important aspect as to why Mary is a part of like Right to Know and a part of this podcast. Is we have like our medical side and we have the part where we talk kind of about biology and we talk about functional nutrition and what's going on in there. But there's a huge part of this of like knowing your why, and for us, it's like we call it like how you run the world. And so you might say, like that sounds really broad, that sounds really large, but for us it's like the little things you do to run the world or the little things you do for your community, that you do to bring your family together, that you do for the girls in your area. And so so that's how you run the world, and that's kind of a little segment of our magazine that Mary's in charge of. So Mary is helping all of you guys, I'm going to bring this a little closer to me, but helping us learn how we can run the world in our sphere in life. And that's the most important part of like healing our bodies, is knowing the why. So Mary, could you just talk a little bit more here about just kind of that aspect of what you do for Right to Know?
Yeah. I actually thought it would help to kind of share shortly my own why. I had horrible period cramps, like always growing up, like to the point of nausea. And then I worked at a summer camp in Alaska, and I had to just eat like very healthy foods, and I realized like I didn't have period cramps, except for day one, like slight discomfort. And I was like, wow, this is not a coincidence. This is something that all girls should have a right to know. And so, yeah. And so I was thinking about, well, how does change happen, right? It starts with things that are actually, we see them as small, but they are how we truly run the world as girls. And so, yeah, the part of the magazine that I'm helping sponsor is just the ways that like girls of all ages and just all walks of life can write in and can say like, hey, this today, like I cooked a hormone healthy meal for my family, or I gave my mom a recipe and she cooked it for us. And that's how I ran the world this today. And just to rekindle the truth that the little things that we do are what truly make a global movement come to life. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my why. And just the reasons that I wanted women to know that no matter what happens, that they truly can make an impact and that it doesn't have to be something big. Something I've loved doing just in our own area so far is I've asked some of the high school girls, like, hey, like I know you like doing this craft, like, do you want to teach the middle schoolers? And they're like, actually, yeah, I do. And it was cool just to see the high schoolers kind of buy into like their little way of making an impact. And all it takes is me asking them, what do you like to do? And how can we make it happen? And so just as we go through all the Right to Know podcasts, I want to inspire you guys to do the same and to write in to the magazine or to, yeah, write into the Big Sister hotline and the Right to Know hotline. Yeah, and let us know the little ways that you run the world, and we'll put you in the magazine.
I love that so, so much. Having Mary as a part of our team has been such a gift because we recognize that like we are all interconnected, right? Body, soul, mind, spirit, like every aspect of that is interconnected. And so to heal one place of our bodies also means to heal something mentally that might be going on in your lives and vice versa. Everything is connected. We're all unique, right? And so, just kind of going on from there, kind of moving into the next section of this part of the podcast, kind of going over like the problem, and we're gonna break some myths. But a couple weeks ago, I thought it was super fun. Our class studied sleep, we studied light, we studied the circadian rhythm, the circadian clock, which maybe some of you guys have heard about before. But Mary, I just wanted to start off by asking you, like, what was like the most like shocking thing to learn about when we were just kind of learning about the circadian rhythm?
I was gonna like actually say like, can I talk about this really quick because that was bombastic for me because so on the circadian rhythm, it talks about like how each time in the day, like a different part of your body's being healed just like naturally, like from the light that's coming in, from the cravings that you might have during that part of the day, like just types of foods. And actually what was the most surprising to me was how if you wake up during certain parts in your sleep, it actually is a trigger to you that certain parts in your body are needing, are not getting the healing that they need, or are needing extra care. And because you repair certain parts of your body during certain times in the night. Yeah, that was crazy for me.
Yeah,
So
and just to kind of give y'all like a just a really quick download on like what we were learning about. We were learning about how like Mary said, different at different hours of the night. So you have like at 9 p.m. from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. you have that's when you usually start getting sleepy, and that's when that's when your endocrine system and just like your metabolism like start balancing out. And then from like around 10 p.m. that's when like the healing of your thyroid, like all of those things, that's when your body is working on that. Gallbladder at midnight, liver at 2 a.m., lungs at 4 a.m. Like the list goes on. Like your large intestine at 6 a.m., your stomach at 7 a.m., and then boom, you wake up. And but what was actually so impactful to me was it was also during the waking hours, what's being healed as well. And so kind of just to just bring a little bit of like why is that happening? So the different lights from the sun, the moon, and the moon actually triggers our cells into repair, and so it's getting different messaging based off of the hours you're awake, or even that's why the blue light in your phone, like that's why people talk about things like that. And so, but what I thought was really cool about learning about all of this is like during different hours of the daytime when you're awake, what times our bodies are like meant to be around people and we can love people better, and what times do we need to spend by ourselves. So we'll get more into this when we bring in somebody to talk about this. But I just like really, really thought that was just so interesting. Like different times our bodies are made to detox, like between 1 and 3 a.m. That's when our liver is detoxing. And between 3 and 5 a.m., that's when our lungs are detoxing. That's when we get better, deeper sleep, right? And so, and they're just moments that we need to take for ourselves. And I just thought, like that's really, really interesting. And more people should know that information so that when you are waking up in the middle of the night at a certain time, you can think to yourself, okay, what time did I go to bed? And what might be like going on within my body that's waking me up at this time of the night. So just kind of going on. Normally here we'd bring up some different studies and things. We're not going to get into that in this episode, but we do want to go over just like some common myths that there are. So Mary, what is like one of those common myths that we see around sleep?
Yeah, I think I would say like one of the big ones is that everybody needs 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something as like an adult that I hear more often is like, oh, I got 6 hours of sleep, like I'm totally fine. And just to kind of just draw that back for a second is like a lot of our research is done on men. And who can push through fatigue, and who can push through, like, for example, when like they work out, we always hear like work out harder, and then when you're tired, you'll get stronger, right? And that's true sometimes for women, but we have to just like identify like how we are different from men, and that's something that we hope to bring with Right to Know is a world in which there is more research done specifically for women. So women, like you can't survive off of a life where you only sleep 6 hours every single night. Like it's okay if it happens on occasion, but especially like during like your body is constantly healing, but especially during like your luteal phase, you definitely need more sleep. And so that's where like even getting more than 9 hours could be good for you. I know, like, there's also like, oh, everyone needs between 7 to 9 hours or 8 to 9 hours, which is also true, but very true for men and not true for women at all points of your cycle. During your luteal phase, you should be maybe sleeping an hour or so longer. So, yeah, that's kind of just like a quick little answer to that. So, yeah. Any other?
And I was thinking like also one that it doesn't seem related to sleep at first, but there's this myth that like if you need to eat small meals all day for your metabolism. But I've been thinking a lot more about how like especially if you wake up at 3 a.m., oh, it's probably your anxiety, but maybe like or just the research was showing that sometimes it's not your brain, it's actually your blood sugar. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many different opinions on this, and I do want to emphasize that like it goes back to you as an individual, and this is why tracking your body is so important. So if you are someone who eats smaller meals throughout the day, track that with your cycle for a month and see when that helps you, when that doesn't help you. But I think like my immediate like answer to this would be that constant eating is going to keep your insulin high. And women's metabolisms benefit from rhythm, right? From that, those three different like meals a day and like maybe a snack here in between. But that is going to keep our blood sugar stable throughout the day, especially if we're doing that on a consistent level. And so something to keep in mind here is we have like two different states of being. We have the sympathetic state of being, and then which is like our fight or flight mode. And then we have what is the other word I'm looking for?
Parasympathetic.
Parasympathetic, right? And so that's your rest and digest. And so we want to maintain our bodies being in parasympathetic, right? Where we can rest and we can digest our food because that helps us get the maximum amount of nutrients out of the food that we're eating. So, for example, if you're constantly eating small meals throughout the entire day, your body's consistently having to digest. And oftentimes, if you're always eating throughout the day, you're not chewing your food, you're not giving your body enough time to produce the saliva you need to process that food. So what happens is your body, and then you like eat, and then you're walking, and your body's just like, oh, I don't know what to do with this food because your body's not able to digest it well. And so that can really destroy your metabolism as well. So I don't want to say like this is correct or incorrect. It's just going to really be dependent on you and what your habits are. And that's why tracking sleep with your cycle will actually give you an insight into what is going on with me. And maybe there is a situation in which eating smaller meals are actually good for you because of different reasons that we'll get into another podcast. But yeah, so if you have questions on that, make sure to if this is helping you in any way or teaching you anything in any way, we want your questions, please. So send them in, DM them to me on my Instagram or Right to Know hotline, or email them to info@righttoknow.com.
Awesome. And I think one of the last ones that I was thinking about is that coffee first thing when you wake up helps you.
Yes. Yeah.
But I know there's a study from Harvard just about how that actually causes a lot of cortisol dysregulation
Yeah.
and thyroid issues, and that caffeine on an empty stomach increases anxiety and a crash later.
Yeah.
And I just thought it'd be helpful to because we kind of some people might buy into the okay, coffee when I first wake up isn't most helpful, but then they don't see how like it actually also is related to our cycle.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, really good. I I'm not going to, I don't drink coffee, but I'm not going to tell you you can't drink coffee, right? Though I think there's an ideal world in which we don't drink coffee, but coffee, I do believe, like a lot of people can't get through the day without coffee and know that about yourself and be okay with that. Like, that's okay. But, like, okay, what is the way in which I can drink coffee in which it won't destroy my metabolism? And it's drinking it about 2 hours after waking and after you've had a meal that has a balance of fat, fiber, and protein. And I think actually it'd be fun to do a whole episode on coffee and the cycle. So I'm gonna save that for later. But yeah, so I think like just kind of getting more into that though, just slightly. But if you have your mood, your appetite, and energy that change weekly, right? And so that's going to impact your cycle. Mary already brought up like the Harvard study and how hormones shift and reshape sleep quality. And so I just like there's a point in which cycling and coffee, like the different times when you're drinking coffee in relation to your cycle, might make you feel different. So if you're drinking coffee one day and you're thinking, like, why did this make me feel so great yesterday, but not today? Like, it probably has something to do with your cycle, and your cycle is always speaking to you. And that's just something we want to emphasize here. So once you learn your rhythm, once you learn your cycle and how you respond to like different foods and different coffees, and there are different types of coffees that are better and worse for you, right? Because coffee is a massive carrier of mold, so you want to get mold-free coffee. So yeah, but once you kind of get to that point of understanding that, you won't just like have this hopeless pain randomly of like this worked for me yesterday but it doesn't work now, and yeah, and so that's just going to be really important to know in regards to coffee. But I look forward to do full podcasts on this as well. So now we're going to get into some questions that we have from listeners. So do you want me to read them, Mary? Do you want to read them, or
Because I'm pretty sure you'll have a good answer. So
I don't know about that.
okay, first question is, hey Maya, I was reading over your Instagram posts and I have the impression you know a lot about hormones and what drives painful periods. I'm suffering with painful cramps, real sister. Something that has never happened before. I have been diagnosed with PCOS and I've been walking a lot more since I moved to Rome. I thought walking would help and it has with weight loss, but I'm dying with pain. Could you give me some tips and information on what I can do to reduce inflammation and pain while on my period?
Ooh, wow. Like, I think so many of us can relate to this. You moved to Rome, so I'm a little jealous. So we're just gonna start there. But I just want to just take a moment and just like be like, wow, like we're all sitting within like so many different pains in our life. I also just want to talk a little bit for a second about the PCOS diagnosis. It is nice to get a diagnosis, right? And be like, okay, there is meaning behind my pain. But I also want you to know that just because one thing helps a girl with PCOS doesn't mean that it's also going to help you, and that's totally okay because it's the way in which your body is speaking to you. Please never forget that just because it works for somebody else doesn't mean your body's broken because it doesn't work for you. You are 100% completely different than every single person around you because it comes from like literally your conception, how you were conceived, the mineral stores your mother had, the genetics that you have, and then the epigenetics. How is your environment that you grew up in informing your body now? And so before we go further in any of the other questions, we're going to try to do 2 or 3 questions each podcast. I want you to just take a moment and think of yourself as like this tree. You're like, and one thing I love about trees is that they're generational, right? Like you can like look at them and there's so many different rings, and as a kid I loved counting the rings on a tree stump to see how long it lived. But I just want you to like take a second and say like there are roots, right? There's a seed, there's a root, the root system, there's soil, there's a trunk, there's different fruits. There's different leaves, there's different branches to who you are. So our goal is to just kind of first of all understand like your story. And so while we're here, like I can give you like practical tips that could help you with your period cramps in the moment. And there are things that have helped me. And I'm also not going to sit here and tell you don't take ibuprofen. And I want to be so for real here. Like, we want to help you heal long term. And I don't believe ibuprofen is a part of that long term, right? Like, I don't think ibuprofen is going to help you long term or is going to be good for you. Even like, but I do believe there is a space in which the pain that you're living in the moment is the pain that you're living in the present. So take that ibuprofen so that you can live fully alive in that moment, but don't let it cover up the pain and then be like, okay, like I'm just gonna keep going on with my life and forget that your body was speaking to you. Like, we want you to know that your body's speaking to you. So, kind of going over just that tree example, let's start with the roots. So, that's your history and your hormone foundation. So, something about PCOS. PCOS is an overarching diagnosis. We're basically saying, yes, it could mean you have polycystic ovaries, but that can be caused by something else. And a lot of times, it's just a diagnosis a lot of doctors will give when they don't really understand what's going on with you. And I just want you to know that you deserve answers. You deserve to know what's going on with you. And so we start with the roots. We can look at family patterns. Like, what was your mom and your grandma's hormone health information? Like hormone health, thyroid health, stress. Like, what was going on with them? If you can't know the answers to those questions, like that's okay. But it's always a really good starting place because I've had a lot of women that I work with who say, I didn't know until I asked my grandma that she had PCOS, that she had these different things, and that she was actually able to help them in these ways. And sometimes we'll get answers like that we'll never know. So early life, in understanding your early life, were you ever on birth control? Are you currently on birth control? And that will tell us some things about what might be going on with your hormones as well. What medications have you been on? So just kind of the question to ask yourself is, what shaped my hormones before this moment now? So trunk, we're gonna just kind of skip the trunk. A lot of times we'll get into soil and stuff, but we can do that. Maybe we can do a whole episode breaking kind of that down. But like just daily habits and resilience. So what's your nutrition, sleep, movement, stress, hydration? It sounds like your movement is really awesome, and I think it's a really good sign that you're finding yourself losing weight while moving more. That shows that your metabolism is working well. It just might need a little more extra help and support. And then I would just say, like, with the walking, keep up the walking, but also make sure that you're like maintaining your body. So kind of just going back to what we talked about before is the parasympathetic versus a sympathetic state of being. Like, just kind of sitting with yourself and saying, what state of being am I consistently in? Because if you're constantly in fight or flight, I can talk about all the nutrition possible, but if we're not just resting and digesting our food, then nothing else matters. Like, I really am a big believer in a lot of like what we do. It goes back to three things, which is either your genetics, your digestion, or your like environment, like the environment that's informing your genetics. But then from there, I just hit my microphone, sorry about that. But from there, what I would really emphasize is when we're looking at digestion, I look at three things. I look at sleep, poop, blood sugar balance. If those things are good, then and normally they're not. But once those things are good, then we can normally look at the rest of the body and say, like, wow, like normally the rest of the body can work itself because your body was meant to work well. Like, your body was not made for suffering. And so if we can like look at the basic things in our life, kind of go back to being a baby, but look at sleep. How are you sleeping? Because if a baby's not sleeping well, then there's obviously something going on. And so that's when we take our babies to the doctor, right? If we're not pooping well, if we're not having good poop, look at a Bristol stool chart. If we're not having good 3 bowel movements a day, then our body most likely isn't detoxing well. And that's oftentimes where we'll look at a lot of estrogen, progesterone imbalances, which could be happening with your period cramps. And so just like kind of going on from there, just kind of writing, like if you're drawing out a tree right now, like write in the leaves, what are the symptoms I'm currently having right now just in your daily life? And so I would start with sleep. Like, start tracking sleep in relation to your cycle. And honestly, healing a lot with sleep can help with a lot of other things. Just kind of going on. So yeah, so right now you have cramps. You mentioned inflammation. How can I keep inflammation down? And we're going to get into in the next question kind of what causes period cramps. But so like also let's look at other symptoms our bodies are having so that can kind of inform what's going on. So noticing patterns, pain, mood, energy, digestion. What are your leaves telling you? And then what are the sunlight and water that are currently feeding your life? So like just really, you're that tree. And what brings you peace? Am I resting in ways that restore? What's your why? kind of going back to what Mary is talking about, and then tracking and body literacy. So what I would just, like I said already, track sleep this month, note bedtime, wake time throughout the day, mood, and cramps in regards to your cycle. If you're feeling extra like, oh, I want to do a little more, I would also track with what food you're eating. But sleep is a good place to start. It helps balance hormones, inflammation, and blood sugar. And yeah, and continue walking, continue doing all the good things, and hopefully we can follow up with you, but keep listening to the podcast to help. And what we'll do from here is like once you track sleep, call in, let us know what's going on, and we can kind of help you out more. And one thing I just want to emphasize is like, again, this isn't medical advice, but this is helping you see the full story of your body. So, moving on, we have the next question. But Mary, was there anything else you wanted to say in regards to the first question? Because I kind of just like word.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome that you are acknowledging Mrs. I'm gonna call her that. Acknowledging that also that these painful period cramps weren't always there. I think that's a really big part of like just knowing that, like Maya said, like you are the expert of your cycle of your body. And so like really honing in, okay, like what has changed in diet and sleep in just like way of life and yeah, and then like kind of taking it easy with yourself and slowly eliminating things. I think a lot of times we want a quick fix, which is I think the current just like medical mentality, the emergency state of things. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was like okay. And when I was in Alaska, I knew I was always had like high protein, high fiber, and high vitamins, vitamin D. And so then when I came back to America, I just like did one cycle where like or 2 months worth of where I eliminated like I didn't eliminate one, but I like really honed in on okay, I'm gonna have a lot of vitamin D, and then I'm gonna have a lot of protein, I'm gonna have a lot of fiber, and kind of have normal amounts of the rest, and see how it varied. And that was big for me. Yeah, so just like kind of allowing yourself to like knowing that you are worth experimenting with like natural remedies because you are not meant to live off of artificial ways of living. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's just,
you're worth the
yeah,
struggle.
that's so beautiful. And I honestly like that's all probably that you needed to hear. But yeah, like just pick one branch of your tree to nourish this month, right? And like Mary said, it's not a quick fix. And we want to be like just with you in every part of that journey. But just that's the first step of recognizing like my body wasn't created for this. Like your body was created for joy, and we just want to be a part of that with you. So yeah,
Yeah.
so let's go on to the next question. And for our last person who just asked a question, we're going to answer more about why period cramps happen. Like what is the structural reason for that in this one? So that might also help you as well.
Awesome. Question two. I have been a silent follower for quite some time and just wanted to reach out regarding any natural approach recommendations you have for period cramps. I've always had pretty severe cramps on the first day of my cycle only. Slay, me too. This past month, I woke up on the first day of my period with the most severe cramps I've ever had, which eventually caused me to throw up. Yeah, I have never had any issues with throwing up on my cycle, which tells me that something is off. Good, but I'm not sure what. I've always had very regular cycles, but throwing up truly threw me off my loop. There you
Oh,
go.
wow. So, first of all, I'm so sorry. And
Yeah.
I also just want to like say to all the girls listening, like I am so sorry that no one told you that like period like that you weren't like I've said before, but that you weren't made for suffering. Like your body, like you're not exposed to experience period cramps, and it shouldn't be throwing up that is that finally the people are like, oh, maybe you're not okay, right? Like, no. Like from the moment a girl has period cramps, people should be saying, what's going on within you? And I'm sorry also for not that our world hasn't created an environment in which you can live fully alive. But just to kind of go into the structural reason of why cramps happen. So cramps happen when your uterus, which is an incredibly powerful muscle, contracts to release its lining every month. So those contractions are triggered by hormone-like messengers called prostaglandins. Is that so? I study all this stuff all the time, guys, but I don't do the speaking it out loud side of this a lot of times. So, but basically, a little bit of a prostaglandin equals healthy flow, but too much equals pain, inflammation, and oftentimes nausea. So, when prostaglandins rise too high, the uterine muscles tighten so strongly that it cuts off its own oxygen supply, creating the stabbing pain that we feel when we have cramps. This often stimulates the vagus nerve, so that's what's just connecting your brain to the rest of your body and letting it know what to do, which connects it I literally have this written down. So I have this written down, so I said this correctly, guys, but which connects the uterus and the digestive tract to the brain, explaining why some women will feel dizzy, nauseous, or will oftentimes throw up. So the deeper reason those prostaglandins surge often traces back to the roots of the body's tree, so that we talked about before. So low progesterone, which can be caused from stress, poor sleep, under eating, not being able to detox well, inflammation from processed oils, refined carbs, or gut imbalances. One thing I want to emphasize here is we don't want to be the people who are like telling you, oh, cut out all your food that you have access to. We want to recognize the food that you do have access to and help you get the maximum amount of nutrients out of it. The one thing though that I will kind of stand behind 9 times out of 10 is seed oils. I still will eat seed oils. I have my seed oils probably about once a week when I go to Cane's. But like, 80-20 rule, right? We want you to, but we want to help you get the maximum amount of nutrients out of what you're eating. And so that means like chewing it and smelling it before you eat, letting your body, and your body should be able to process like that 20% of food that you're eating that might not be perfect for you. And nothing's going to be perfect for you. But that is something that I'll say is like really like if you're going to have food, like really try to lessen the seed oils in it, especially what you're eating in your own house. Low minerals and so also just kind of going back to the roots of the body's tree, so other things that could cause period cramps, which would be low minerals and blood sugar dips, especially magnesium and a stable glucose level. So that when the body is undernourished and overstressed, it produces more inflammatory prostaglandins and fewer calming hormones, making the uterus work harder than it should. And so that's just kind of going back to that, what state of being are you constantly in, sympathetic or parasympathetic? And so cramps are your uterus's way of saying it's under too much pressure from inflammation, stress, or lack of fuel. And it's asking for safety, oxygen, and nourishment. And for this listener, I would also just say that I'm going to go back to what we were saying to Miss Rome in the question before, and just kind of like look at your history, look at who you are, and recognizing this is a part of your story, and it's a beautiful part of your story, but you weren't made to live in pain. And you have a right to know this information, and you have a right to know how your body is speaking to you. So kudos to you for reaching out, and also for like recognizing that, yes, this is not normal for my body. Your body is one with you and is asking for help so you can live out your mission and purpose and run the world. So kind of going from there, Mary, are there any other things you want to talk about here?
No, I think that was really well said. I think, yeah, also just like because you're had like a painful period to the point of nausea now doesn't mean you will forevermore. Because when I was in my last semester of undergrad, I was having a lot of spotting, so much that I like went to the doctor for because I was like, what, I'm spotting? Now I'm going to be infertile for the rest of my life. And it doesn't work like that at all. So yeah. So just like to encourage you that even just as simple as like, wow, like I'm more, and I didn't think I was stressed. But now that I'm not writing my honors thesis, I'm not spotting. So just right. Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, take it one step. Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that like personal side of it too. Is like I also had horrendous throw up, not go anywhere for 3 to 5 days, period cramps, and I literally had zero options, and I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out.
Can I share another right to know that they have is that when actually I remember when I first met you, my first memory of you is popping 5 ibuprofen for your period cramps day one, and I was like, is that possible? Yeah. So to go from popping 5, like I can attest that you did.
No, I literally, because I had surgery when I was 12, and so it made me have like really high tolerance to like medication. So I had to take like 5 ibuprofen to even get my period cramps to kind of go away. And that was my life for like all of high school. And that was how I got through high school. And then I moved out and I was like living my own life in DC. And I was like, wait, like this is not the life I should be living, like where I'm popping ibuprofen constantly. And let me tell you guys, I was able to naturally heal period cramps. But you know what it took? It took me becoming a functional nutrition counselor. Like that's not what your story should be. Because it's not actually like it doesn't have to be that hard. It just has to be like, what is my story? And are there big sisters around that can help me out? And that's who we're here to be. So your challenge for this month is to track bedtime, wake time, energy, and I would add in the note of what phase of your cycle you're in, because it's not just about tracking your cycle. Like let's redefine that. It is about tracking the cycle of your body. So yeah, Mary, do you have anything else you want to add to any of like call to action of what you would want them to do?
No, I think that's great. Like start with sleep. Perfect. And then keep following us, and then you'll hear new things to track.
Yeah, and like go to our Instagram where we'll be focusing on sleep for the month of November, and then we'll move into something new for December. But also just to kind of go there is like that's why we've created this AI. But I will say to just be completely vulnerable with you guys is that we need to be able to raise about $700,000 more. And we have actually quite a few investors, but they want to see that you actually want something like this before they pull the trigger on it. So, in order for us to release our AI in February, we need to have 10,000 people on our waiting list. Yeah, 10,000 people on our waiting list. Like, might sound crazy, but I don't actually think it's unreachable. So, we're trying to reach that by the end of 2025. So, we have about a month and a half to get there. And so, but we want you on the waiting list so that number one, if you're on the waiting list, you're going to get up to 5 months of premium free, which means that you can just like take pictures of your food and it'll integrate it into your cycle and then it can integrate with your health app, all of those things. And that's going to be freaking incredible. But what's amazing about it is the AI is pattern recognition driven. And so it will help you see patterns that you never saw before. It is not your normal cycle tracking app. We track more than periods. We're not just for fertility. So we need you on this wait list. And I would beg of you to share it with our friends. If this episode has served you in any way, so please go to writeknow.com and you'll find the AI waitlist right there. Sign up for the AI waitlist and please share it with a friend and you will be making a huge difference. Being on the wait list is completely free. Our AI is completely free. You can add like premium features to it for $3 to $6 a month, but you'll get those free if you sign up for the wait list. So please learn your cycle through the AI. It will teach you how to teach you about your cycle and help you track sleep data and show you how everything is connected and the beautiful story of you, beautiful you. So every symptom is a sentence from your body. The question is, will you learn the language?
Because once you do, you'll never outsource your intuition again.
So next week, we'll be going on how your over how your cycle runs your energy, emotions, and confidence, and how to use it like a strategy. And everything you do, we'll be focusing it specifically around sleep, and we'll have a medical professional on with Ask as well. So ask your questions about sleep to a doctor who we'll be having on for the next episode. Email it to info@writeknow.com or DM us or voice memo us. We'd love to play your audio here on the podcast. But just remember that your body is not broken. It's absolutely brilliant.